Hello and welcome to Workers Comp Unwrapped, the podcast that simplifies workers' compensation for physicians. I'm your host, Max, here to give you clear, actionable insights to navigate the medical legal side of workers' comp. So let's get started. Welcome to Season 2 of Workers Comp Unwrapped. With me today is Aisha, who has 15 years of experience in the workers' comp industry.
Hi, everyone.
Today we are talking about how applicant attorneys support injured workers when their claims get denied or disputed,
Right.
and what that means for your ability to provide the best care and get paid for it.
Yeah, it's really about understanding how the success of the injured worker, the attorney, and you, the medical provider, are all tied together in these cases.
Okay, so for our listeners who might not be familiar,
Yeah.
can you give us a quick rundown on who applicant attorneys are and what they do?
Sure. Think of them as specialized lawyers for injured workers in the California workers' comp system.
Okay.
They're there to help navigate the complexities and fight for the workers' benefits, especially when a claim is denied or disputed.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they typically work on a contingency basis.
Exactly.
Good.
That means their fees are dependent on the worker receiving benefits. So their success is directly tied to your patient getting the care they need and to you getting paid for providing that care.
So everyone's incentives are aligned,
Yes,
which makes sense.
absolutely.
But let's back up a bit.
Yeah.
Why would an injured worker even need an attorney in the first place?
Yeah.
Shouldn't the system be straightforward enough?
In theory, yes, but the reality is there are many points where things can get complicated.
Okay.
One common scenario is a straight-up claim denial by the employer or their insurer.
Right.
Another is treatment denials, those URM roadblocks that can be so frustrating.
Oh, I know our listeners are very familiar with those.
Yes.
What are some other situations where an attorney can be helpful?
There are also benefit disputes, like arguments over the appropriate level of wage replacement or disability rating.
Okay.
And of course, any case with multiple injuries, pre-existing conditions, or unusual circumstances can benefit from having an experienced attorney on board.
It sounds like they deal with quite a lot.
They do.
So how does all this help the medical provider, our listener?
Well, applicant attorneys are often crucial in getting treatments approved.
Okay.
They take your detailed reports and documentation and build a strong case to prove the medical necessity of the treatments you're recommending.
So they can really be your ally in challenging denials and getting your patients the care they need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They can really be your allies in challenging denials and getting your patients the care they need.
So our listeners' documentation is really like ammunition for the attorney.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They use it to fight denials, point out flaws in the insurer's reasoning, and utilize the legal processes available to them to challenge those denials effectively.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Does having an attorney involved typically speed things up for the patient and ensure the provider gets paid faster?
Often, yes.
Okay.
Because attorneys can push for interim approvals while disputes are being worked out.
Right.
Patients can get treatment sooner, and you get paid more quickly.
Let's make this more concrete. Can you share an example of how this plays out in real life?
Sure. Let's say a worker needs spinal surgery,
Okay.
and you, the provider, have determined that it's absolutely necessary,
Okay.
but the insurer denies it.
Oh,
This happens more often than you'd think.
that's a nightmare scenario for both the patient and the provider.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's when a good applicant attorney can step in.
Right.
They would gather all the evidence, including your reports, imaging results, and anything else that supports the surgery's medical necessity,
Right.
and then fight to get it approved.
So this might involve the appeals process or even going before a judge.
It might, yes.
And in a case like that, what usually happens?
In many cases, the attorney is successful.
Okay.
The surgery is approved, the patient can recover, and you get paid for providing that essential care.
Okay, so I'm convinced having an applicant attorney on board can be a real game changer.
It can be, yeah.
But what can our listeners do to make this team even more effective? Are there specific things they can do on their end?
You bet. And the most important thing is documentation. Documentation is truly the foundation of everything in workers' comp.
Okay.
Applicant attorneys rely heavily on your reports to build their case.
Okay.
The clearer and more detailed your documentation,
Right.
the stronger their arguments will be.
So good documentation.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like for our listeners?
It needs to be clear, concise, and comprehensive.
Okay.
Include all relevant diagnoses, detailed treatment plans,
Mm-hmm.
and the rationale behind your recommendations.
Gotcha.
Back everything up with supporting evidence like test results and imaging studies.
Okay.
And of course, it all needs to be in line with California's MTUS guidelines.
Right, the medical treatment utilization schedule.
Exactly.
That can be tricky to navigate sometimes.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it's essential. Your
Yeah.
documentation needs to show that the treatment you're recommending isn't just medically necessary,
Right.
but also that it follows those MTUS standards.
So it's not just about what the provider recommends, but also how they justify it within the MTUS framework.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another important point, make sure you're clearly documenting any attempts at conservative treatment and why those approaches weren't effective.
Okay.
That helps build a stronger case for more aggressive interventions.
Okay. Documentation is king. Got it.
Yes.
What else can providers do to be strong partners to the applicant attorney?
Communication is also key.
Okay.
Being responsive to the attorney's questions,
Yeah.
keeping them updated on the patient's progress,
Right.
and being open and proactive throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
This kind of smooth communication makes a world of difference.
It's about being a team player, making sure everyone is in the loop. Right.
Precisely.
Okay.
And here's something else that can be really helpful.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to learn a little bit about the legal side of things.
Wait, you're not suggesting our listeners need to go to law school, are you?
Of course not. But familiarizing yourself with the basic steps involved in disputed claims, things like UR, IMR, and WCAB hearings, can make you a more effective partner.
So just having a basic understanding of the process can be helpful.
Absolutely.
Right.
It allows you to tailor your documentation to support the legal strategy and anticipate potential challenges.
Right.
It's like understanding the rules of the game.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this collaboration as a pretty positive thing,
Mm-hmm.
but are there any potential bumps in the road that our listeners should be aware of?
Of course,
Well, I
no
think-
system is perfect.
Right?
One common issue is communication delays.
Okay.
Sometimes getting information from the attorney or vice versa can take longer than expected,
Right.
which can lead to frustration and stall the progress of the claim.
So how can providers and attorneys prevent that from happening?
Setting up clear communication channels right from the start is crucial.
Okay.
Have a designated point of contact on both sides and schedule regular check-ins to discuss the case.
Oh.
This keeps everyone in the loop and helps address potential issues promptly.
Okay, that's a great tip.
Thank you.
What other challenges come up?
Another common pitfall is vague or incomplete medical reports.
Oh.
Sometimes providers might unintentionally leave out important details or use language that isn't clear enough for legal purposes.
I see how that could be a problem.
It can be, yes.
How can providers avoid that?
Standardizing the reporting process can really help.
Oh.
Using templates can ensure you're consistently including all the necessary information in a clear and concise manner.
Right.
This makes the attorney's job easier and reduces the risk of misunderstandings.
So being thorough and consistent is really key.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's dealing with the insurer, which can sometimes be the biggest challenge of all.
That's putting it mildly. They don't exactly have a reputation for making things easy.
It's true that insurers can sometimes play hardball.
Right.
They might delay or deny treatments, hoping the worker will give up or accept a lower settlement.
That's so frustrating.
It can be.
What can providers do in those situations?
The key is to remain neutral and focus on providing the strongest possible evidence-based documentation.
Okay.
Let the attorney handle arguing the case in dealing with the insurer.
So the provider's role is to be the solid foundation of medical evidence.
Precisely.
Okay.
By providing clear, well-supported documentation, you're giving the attorney the best possible tools to fight for the patient's rights.
This has been incredibly insightful.
Thank you.
It sounds like these applicant attorneys are truly invaluable allies for medical providers navigating the workers' comp system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Working effectively with an applicant attorney can make a huge difference.
Right.
It can lead to more treatment approvals, smoother reimbursements,
Mm.
and ultimately better outcomes for your patients. It's a
Yeah.
true win-win partnership.
We've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to leave our listeners with a thought.
Okay.
Think about a recent challenging case you've had. Could partnering with an applicant attorney have made a difference?
Right.
How might you apply these tips in your own practice?
Yeah.
It's something worth considering because, as we've seen, collaboration is key in the world of workers' comp. You know, while we've been talking about the specifics of these cases and how providers can work effectively with applicant attorneys, I keep coming back to the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
Well, we're talking about a system that, despite its complexities and frustrations,
Yeah,
is designed to protect people.
right.
It's there to help injured workers get the care and support they need to get back on their feet.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
Workers' comp is meant to be a safety net for people who get hurt on the job. It acknowledges that work has inherent risks and steps in to help when those risks turn into real-life injuries.
It's a recognition that people's livelihoods, their health, and their families are all affected when a work injury happens.
Absolutely.
And as we've discussed, applicant attorneys play a crucial role in making sure that safety net actually works.
Absolutely.
Yep.
They're there to fight for the worker, to make sure they're getting the full benefits they're entitled to, and to help them navigate a system that can be very confusing and intimidating.
And when medical providers and applicant attorneys work together effectively, it really creates a powerful force for good.
It does.
It ensures that treatment decisions are made with the worker's best interests in mind.
It's a true partnership.
Yeah.
And when that partnership works well, it can make a real difference in someone's life.
Like-
That's what makes this work so rewarding.
I think this whole conversation has given me a fresh perspective on the workers' comp system.
Okay.
It's easy to get bogged down in the details and lose sight of the human impact.
It's true.
Yeah.
Behind all the paperwork and legal processes, there are real people whose lives are affected.
Right. As we wrap up, I want to encourage our listeners to think about their role in this system.
Okay.
Whether you're a provider, an attorney, or even an injured worker yourself, understanding your rights and advocating for your needs can make a huge difference.
And remember, there are resources available to help you.
Yes.
Don't hesitate to reach out to your professional organization, an experienced colleague, or a trusted advocate for support and guidance.
This has been such an insightful conversation. Aisha,
Thank you.
thank you so much for sharing your expertise with our listeners today.
It's been my pleasure.
I'm glad we could shed some light on this important topic.
Me too.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the world of workers' comp.
Yes, thank you.
We'll be back next time with another episode of Workers' Comp Unwrapped.
See you then.
Until then, stay informed, stay connected, and stay well. Thank you for listening to Workers' Comp Unwrapped. If you found value in today's episode, share it with your fellow medical providers and healthcare specialists. For more information, contact us at lena.klein@medicallienmgt.com or visit our website, medicallienmgt.com.